Two weekend winnable games lost yet again, and you will not believe what we are about to say about it on today's Locked On Predators podcast.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to what is likely to be one of the most unhinged episodes of the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to kick off this Monday? We've jumped the shark episode, shouting out our Locked On Predators insiders and our everydayers who tune in each and every weekday to talk Nashville Predators hockey with us. I'm Ann Kimmel. I am a co-host and writer with Penalty Box Radio. And my friends, I have a partner in crime.
You do. I'm Emma Lingen, and I'm the Predators site editor and reporter for the Hockey News.
Emma, the show friends always named their episodes The One Where, and then you insert the event. Well, today's episode should be called The One Where Ann and Emma Lose Their Ever-Loving Jesus, because the Nashville Predators lost back-to-back weekend games that were so winnable, and we're just really in our feels. And friends, on today's episode, we're going to say some things that you probably never thought you would hear us say. Also, we are going to preview tonight's game against a very hot Ottawa team. What could possibly go wrong? And we're going to take a look at some of the big headlines in the NHL from this weekend. Before we dive into all of that, want to let you know today's episode is sponsored by FanDuel. New customers can bet just $5. And if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Oh, Emma. I mean, friends, if you have tuned into the Locked On Predators podcast, you know that Emma and I like to take, a measured approach to what has been just a really bizarre season. Today, we're going to jump the shark because the Nashville Predators lost this weekend to the Buffalo Sabres. They lost to the Pittsburgh Penguins. They were shut out against the Penguins for the 7th time. That is the most in the NHL. Two very winnable games lost yet again by the Nashville Predators. We, of course, always kick off game recaps with one word, but you know what? We're not even going to go there. I'm just going to steal Rebecca, one of our insiders, one word. Her one word after that Pittsburgh game, 74, as in only 74 days left in this awful season. Yeah, Rebecca, we go start counting down the days. And while we do, we're going to just sort of take a different perspective. Of course, Nashville lost to Buffalo, lost to Pittsburgh. Emma, what the flag nog?
Well, first off, I'll say 74 is also appropriate with UC Saros being the only enjoyable part of watching that game. Only enjoyable part of the Predators play in that game, because I just I don't know. Again, I've always been the everybody calm down person. Like, everyone, let's just relax, like, stop, don't freak out. And I'm still not freaking out because that's just not who I am as a person. But I think this team has broken me. I think covering this team has broken me officially. It took a while. It took, when everyone else had already kind of jumped ship, I was like, no, no, no. They still have time. They could figure it out. And it's not even, at this point, it's not even just about making the playoffs anymore. I know they have like a
No.
1% chance of making the playoffs. I don't care about that.
Mm-mm.
It's clearly whatever this isn't working. And I don't know. Again, it's not like Trotz needs to go, Brunette needs to go, these players need to get traded. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying clearly we need, whatever the plan was, we might need to reevaluate now, because it's clearly not working. And again, I'm not one to blame Barry Trotz, because like, no one, back when this happened, no one thought it was a bad plan. But I just, oh, this team, there's no reason they should be this bad, but they are. And again, like watching them against Pittsburgh, what did we talk about on Friday? We said Pittsburgh, the old farts. Man, they were running circles around Nashville, and,
Yep.
like, they just never like, Nashville could never get set up in the offensive zone. They never had any, like, quality time in the zone, which resulted in the 0 goals that they scored, and it was just I mean, it was painful to watch. It was hard to watch. So I'm now fully on the I'm not on the tank train because tank implies that you're, like, trying to lose or okay with losing, and there's not a single bone in the body of anyone on that roster who is okay with losing. But I am a little bit more like, "Okay, stop. Like, we're not trying to make the playoffs anymore. We're not.
Yeah.
Let's stop operating like we are, because right now you should be focused on getting, quite frankly, a top 3 draft pick."
Yes. And this is something that you and I we've not been there
No.
before this season. We have not been there, but friends, this is where we are because there is something fundamentally not working with this team. And what is so frustrating as we cover this team, as we talk to these players, as we hear from Andrew Brunette, is that you cannot put your finger on it. And again, we've said this before. If somebody says this is why Nashville is so bad and they give you one reason, they don't know. But
Mhm.
this team is fundamentally broken. And I agree with you. At this point, I'm with you. You cannot tell this locker room, don't try, because you have to build something. But you look at what happened this weekend. They had that 5-game win streak. Now, we got to be honest, some of those wins were by the hair on their chinny chin chins. But now you are on a 4-game losing streak and you are finding ways to lose games at this point in the season with a roster that is talented. I don't care what anybody says about age, about this, about that. Nashville is a more talented roster than the Buffalo Sabres, point blank. And I mean no disrespect to Buffalo by saying that. Nashville is a more talented roster in a lot of ways than Pittsburgh. Of course, they have Sidney Crosby, but you're talking about breadth and width.
You had Pittsburgh with Evgeny Malkin on IR, and their top defenseman, Marcus Pettersson, had just been traded away. There was absolutely no reason that they should have looked that bad. Not just like, "Oh, they lost." I mean, it wasn't even close.
Mm-mm.
It was hard to watch.
It was the worst. It was the worst game to watch of the season. And I think part of it was the on ice performance. I think part of it was how poorly you played about an opponent that you could beat. And I think part of it is at this point in the season to see this team not find a way to get it together with some consistency over a stretch of games or in a 60-minute period. It's broken. It's broken. One of our insiders, we talked to them about like, what are you seeing? Like, what is going on? One of our insiders says, it looks to me like Bruno and the coaches are out of answers. And I've got to tell you, and I'm not insinuating this is all Andrew Brunette. I'm not insinuating this is Barry Trotz did something stupid. I'm not insinuating that this team doesn't have talent. I am telling you, they are so in the jingweeds right now, they can't see the forest for the trees. And at this point, there is no way that they are going to be able to come out of this with anything. And I'm with you. Playoffs out of the picture. But is this team even going to be able to do enough in the remainder of this season to build enough momentum to look forward to next season? And I doubt it now. After this weekend, I doubt it.
Well, and now you look at, you gotta focus on next season because even if, like what changes? What changes? It's not about making the playoffs this year. It's about like, okay, it would be a totally different story if we're like, okay, they're starting to get it together. It's a little too late for this year, but that's a good thing. for it, it's promising for next year. That's where I was at.
Mhm.
That's where I was at before this weekend. I was like, all right, too little, too late for this year. But next year, now,
Right.
it took them a while, but now that they've gotten it together, then okay. But that's where I was at. I'm not, I just, I'm broken. I'm broken. And like this team, the two winnable games for a variety of reasons, they had their dads in town. Like again, I thought I realistically, just knowing this team, did not expect them to win both. But I was
Mhm.
like, they gotta win one. They're gonna win one. They didn't even win one.
No.
And it was just ugh,
Yeah.
ugh,
Ugh. Yeah,
ugh.
we're broken. And coming up, we're going to hear from Steven Stamkos, who also sounds broken after that Pittsburgh loss. Plus, hey, Nashville has to turn things around tonight against a very hot Ottawa team. We're going to talk about what that could possibly look like and what Nashville could legitimately do to turn things around tonight. Today's episode is brought to you by our great friends at FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here. One game, two teams, endless possibilities. And there is no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, that's just icing on the cake. Download the app or head to fanduel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's fanduel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. Friends, if you think Emma and I are broken, and we are, just get a load of poor Steven Stamkos after this Pittsburgh game. This is just what Steven Stamkos had to say. I mean, listen to his voice and look at this man's face. Steven Stamkos, post game Pittsburgh loss.
It's tough. I mean, we're obviously in a funk here. These last 3-4 games, we just got to try to get some mojo back a little bit. Just start feeling better game, a little more confidence with the puck. I know it's tough, especially when things aren't going well. It feels like it snowballs a little bit with the way this season's gone, but we got to find a way to be better and just try to find some things to build on. We haven't found that the last couple games. Well, the game started slipping a little bit. We had a good stretch there, 5 in a row, where I thought we played well and didn't give up much, and then we started giving up some too many chances and got away with a few wins, but it's just, the little details of the game that, you look at where we are in the standings, you can't afford to, have mishaps in games, or as many as we've had the last couple nights, and it costs you.
How is a team with this much talent having so many mishaps that cost them games? It's
It's
inexplicable.
That's the thing, is like some of the mishaps, like you get it, it happens. It's life. They're humans. Like, things happen, but it's the frequency, the regularity, and the consistency with which they're happening that it's like, okay, at this point, you can't even call them mishaps because they're happening so often. Like, this is just normal. And I mean, sure, there are things you can point to here and there, like, you know, this player isn't, doing his job on this play, or something like that. But it's like, it's not just one guy, it's just
Mhm.
everything. And I mean, I'm out of answers too.
Yeah. And I think the flip side of, oh, Nashville has created, we've had these weird mishaps. The flip side of that is when other teams have quote unquote mishaps, Nashville does nothing with the opportunity. They do nothing with that opportunity. And you will never win hockey games. You will never get to the postseason if you are a team that creates quote unquote mishaps and can't recover from them. And then you don't capitalize on what the other team gives you. And Nashville hasn't done that this season.
I mean, I think a perfect example of that is in the Buffalo game. I think Cole Smith drew a double minor high stick penalty.
Oh, girl.
The Predators got a free 4-minute power play. Through 3 minutes and 20 seconds, they did not record a single shot on goal. And then they get a penalty. So it's down to 4-on-4 for 40 seconds. And then once that's over, they have to go on the penalty kill. And it's like, dude, how, like, again, if you're making the chances and you're putting shots on goal, you're trying and they're just not going in, that's fine. That's hockey. But like, what? I mean, the number of like you said, and like honestly, I've always said this, that in this league, there's talent is not what separates the really good teams from the really bad, or like the haves and the have-nots. Like, it's not about talent. Every player, like, they're in the National freaking Hockey League. They're all talented. What makes or breaks, a winner versus a loser is that opportunism and that ability to capitalize on those moments and the ability to work together as a unit, as a 5-man unit or as a 4-man unit, whatever the case may be. And the Predators aren't doing either of those. And so it's like, all right, well, then they deserve to be exactly where they are in the standings.
Yeah. This is exactly how you lose games in the NHL. And I agree 100% with you. We talk about this roster having talent. I think for me, I don't want to hear the argument that Nashville doesn't have a talented enough roster. I don't buy into signing Steven Stamkos was a big mistake because he's old and he doesn't really know how to play hockey without Kucherov. Don't believe any of that. But it is about opportunism. And Nashville cannot get out of their own way. And they cannot capitalize on mistakes. And at this point in the season, it is so far too late to be figuring that out. I mean, that is baseline. That is baseline fundamental how you win games in this league. And they have not figured it out. And at this point, I am with you. What can you build on from here? I don't know. I don't know what Nashville can do to build some momentum. Steven Stamkos said we got to get some mojo back. How? How is this team going to get mojo back? The mental toll of this season in this locker room has to be so heavy. Jonathan Marchessault, we talk about Marchessault Midnight. His philosophy is I celebrate a win or I get frustrated over a loss until midnight, and then it is a new day. Okay, that midnight now has to feel like 3 or 4 a.m. for Jonathan Marchessault because this team is so frustrating. And these losses are so heavy and the mistakes are so big that at this point, mentally, I don't know how this team recovers. And here's the bottom line. They've got to figure it out because tonight they play Ottawa, 28-20-4. They are third in the Atlantic Division. Unlike Nashville, when Ottawa loses, it tends to be really good teams. Emma, what does Nashville have to do tonight? What is possible tonight against Ottawa?
Well, we would be remiss not to point out that the Ottawa Senators last game was against the Minnesota Wild.
Oh, girl.
And they won that game by a final score of 6-0. So if there's anything to take away from, the Predators getting shut out 3-0 by the Penguins, like, hey, at least it wasn't 6-0. but
Ooh.
hey, Ottawa just did that to someone else. So, who knows? But No, I mean, Ottawa has been a team, kind of a surprise this year. This is a team that everyone has kind of been waiting for them to like get it together. Claude Giroux came and signed there like several seasons ago because it was like, yeah, I really think that this team has something and we can do something. But it was like they never quite got it together, and they were just sort of in the bottom middle for a while, and in a very admittedly a very tough Atlantic division. Now, like you said, they're in third place. They have really gotten it together, and they have a good mix of talent. They've got young talent. Obviously they have Brady Tkachuk, but they have guys like Shane Pinto, really, really good offensive weapons. But then they also have Linus Olmark, who
Yes.
has been, he got off to a little bit of a rough start. Everyone was like, oh, well, he like it was Boston who made him look good. It was the team playing in front of him that made him look good. And now he's like getting exposed. Well, not anymore, friends. And I mean, they just have everything going for them right now. And this is like kind of the opposite of the Predators. The Predators are worse than they were expected to be this year. The Ottawa Senators are better than they were expected to be this year. So like talk about mojo. This team's got to have a ton of it. This Ottawa team right now. And Nashville just needs to, like you said, there's so many different things this could apply to, so many situations this could apply to, but they need to get out of their own way. Like just the number of chances that they directly give to the opponent, the number of chances they don't take advantage of themselves. I mean, it just looks like they're constantly shooting themselves in the foot. And again, I don't know how you break out of that, but that's what needs to happen.
Yeah. And it has to happen, like you said, against this Ottawa Senators team with plenty of talent. And they are getting it done as compared to the Nashville Predators with plenty of talent, and they cannot get it done. I don't know what to expect tonight. My expectations are low. And at this point, like you said at the top of the show, lose it. Play hard, lose it. Okay. That's where we're at. Coming up, we are going to take a quick look back at some things off ice for the weekend. It was the Father's Trip. Emma and I are going to tell you the most shocking thing we saw when it comes to this Father's Trip. Plus, we're going to talk about the big trades that happened in the NHL. Well, with this Nashville Predators season in the absolute dumpster, we have gotten to spend a lot of time hashing out what is going on, and we get to do it with our Locked On Predators insiders community. We've been weighing in with them on what they think is going on with this team, what Nashville has to do to turn some things around, what can be salvaged. It's really great to get their takes, and we're going to be bringing you some of their takes over the Four Nations break and sharing our thoughts on that. If you are interested in talking with Emma and I and sharing your thoughts beyond the podcast, we want to invite you to join our insiders community via subtext. It's a great way to connect. It's a great way to get your voice heard. It's a great way to share your thoughts with us. We'd love for you to join us. You can learn more by clicking the link in this video description, or you can check out the link in our show's bio. All right, Emma, are we shocked that the Nashville Predators just absolutely stunk it up this weekend? Yep, sure are. Lost to Buffalo, lost to Pittsburgh, but I don't even know if that's the most shocking thing that happened. To me, and you and I texted about this in real time, the most shocking thing, the strength of the Stamkos genetics, you all. Oh my gosh. Papa Stamkos was interviewed, and friends, it was like time travel to the year 2055 and getting a look at exactly what Steven Stamkos is going to look and sound like. Oh my gosh, Emma.
That was, yeah, you texted me during the game. You said Steven Stamkos' wife knows exactly what her husband is going to look and sound like. I mean, it's wonderful because like when you marry someone and you don't know like, oh, how is this going to age? Like she knows exactly because Steven Stamkos is a carbon copy of his father. Like, again, like you said, not even just the looks,
Mm-mm.
but the way he talked, like if you close your eyes and listen to that interview, it was Steven Stamkos. Like it was
Unreal.
uncanny.
It was
Uncanny.
freaky. It was freaky, you all. And of course, that was Nashville's first opportunity to have exposure to Papa Stamkos. Of course, we all know Papa Sissons. He's like one of the faves. He is a low key fave in Nashville. But I mean, it blew my mind. I was like, the Stamkos genetics are very, very strong. So I thought that was really, really fun. And love that Adam Wilsby and Zach LaRue and Nick Blankenberg got to share this experience with their dads too. I thought that was really great. I do love that people want to know if Papa Evangelista has a Gucci belt as well. So just kind of fun. Horrible performance in front of the dads. Horrible performance in front of the dads. But yeah, that Papa Stamkos thing, ooh, that was next level. Of course, Steven Stamkos's future in 2055, not the only big news that went down. Huge weekend when it comes to trades. The Vancouver Days of Our Lives has resolved JT Miller traded to the New York Rangers. Here's what I want to say about this, Emma. Whether you are in that Vancouver locker room and you are Team Pedersen or Team Miller, you just have to be so freaking relieved it's over.
Yeah, you said the Vancouver Days of Our Lives over. I host the wraparound show over at the Hockey News, and my co-host Mike Agello and I have dubbed it as the Canucks turn. So it's like a weekly installment of the soap opera. And now it's like, well, man, what are we? That was like a given, segment in every show. It was like, what's the update from Vancouver? It's like there's something going on, and now we don't have that. I did watch the most of the Bruins Rangers game on
Yes.
Saturday. JT Miller scored twice in that game. I do think it's interesting, that Vancouver still hasn't fully come out and definitively said that Pedersen's off the trade block just because Miller's gone. There's still, I don't think they're as active about, shopping him right now, but I know that when all of this was going down, there were definitely some teams that showed some serious interest in Pedersen, and that interest has not faded. So I think that, Pedersen's a guy that we probably won't see a trade. He'll probably last the rest of the season with Vancouver, but I would not be stunned if he got traded this offseason. Again, like the deeper this got and the more messy it became, I honestly was thinking like I easily envision a scenario where both of these guys get traded because it's just
such a mess. And
such
like
a
I
mess.
said, whether you're, this goes back to Team Edward, Team Jacob from Twilight. No matter whose side you are on, you just almost have to be glad the movie's over. Because what drama. And you can come in and you can go about your business, but when you have something like that is so pervasive in the locker room, whether they want to say it or not, their vice president of hockey operations felt free enough to say something about it. That affects everybody. And like I said, whether you were on Miller's side or Pedersen's side, at some point you just have to be relieved that it's no longer there. It's going to be really interesting to see what the Canucks do and how this does or doesn't affect it. But I think that's really interesting. Are they going to keep Pedersen after this season? Or, has this just gone a little too far to recover from? It's going to be interesting to watch. Another trade that went down, San Jose Sharks traded former Nashville Predator Mikael Granlund and Cody Ceci to the Dallas Stars for a first-round pick and a conditional third-round pick in 2025. Interesting move by Dallas. I like this for Dallas. Don't like it for Nashville, but at this point, who cares? Nashville's out of it.
No, it makes a ton of sense for Dallas. I mean, this is a playoff team, and they have taken just some brutal hits injury-wise this year. I mean, they don't have Tyler Seguin. They don't have Miro Heiskanen for a while now. Some other guys have been injured here and there. Mason Marchment's been out. They've just really been bit by the injury bug this year. So I think that Granlund, without Sagan, that's where Granlund comes in. Without Heiskanen, that's where Cece comes in. I think that, the fact that Dallas was willing to give up a first round pick for it is, pretty indicative of where they're at, as an organization, that they're really trying to go all in. You have to respect it. And I think that, again, it accomplishes needs for them, in a year that is supposed to be a competitive year for them. And I think that both of those pieces, Granlund has been really, really solid in San Jose. It didn't quite have it in Nashville, didn't quite have it in Pittsburgh, but he's really kind of found his footing in San Jose, to which I say, well, duh. I mean, no disrespect, but of course he's going to lead that team in scoring.
Right. And they needed him. San Jose needed Granlund.
Yes. I mean, as a veteran kind of stabilizer, it was good to have him there. Now, he can go and be a depth forward and help, Dallas in a, presumably a pretty deep playoff run. I mean, that's certainly their goal, but and then Cece as well, really solid defense. And honestly, even before before anyone got hurt, and anything happened there, I think on defense was where Dallas was going to need to make some additions regardless, because I think that they do not have a very deep decor. And so for a playoff run, I think, losing Chris Tanev was really big for them. That hurt them. They got Matt Dumba, who is not really, and I just think that was kind of the weak link on their roster. So I think the moves make a ton of sense, and good on them, honestly, for doing it sooner and not waiting until after Four Nations, waiting until the trade deadline, because it kind of gets them integrated into your group now, and it hopefully for them will work out.
Yeah. And Cece just went on that deep run last season with Edmonton. You got to love adding that to your roster. So I think a good move for Dallas. Of course, people are talking about what will Nashville do? Look, Barry Trotz said if the Predators make a run, he would maybe look at buying. Y'all, he is not buying. He's not buying a candy bar. He's not buying a coffee at Starbucks. He's not buying nothing. But is he going to sell? That's something we're going to be talking about coming up in the next couple of weeks. Who could be gone? Who does Nashville need to hang on to? Are Emma and I going to stay sober through this season? There are so many questions we're wrestling with. Of course, tonight, the big question is, what can Nashville do against this Ottawa Senators team? This team's jumped the shark. We have no idea, but that we will be back on tomorrow's episode. We're going to recap whatever we saw. We're going to tell you what we think about where Nashville went from this weekend to tonight's game. We're going to give you our one word if it's FCC compliant. So make sure you tune back in on tomorrow's episode. We'll let you know if we are still losing our Jesus. Before we log off on this episode, Emma, will you let everyone know where they can find you and your work?
Yes, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Emma_Lingen. You can find my work at the Hockey News, both on the Nashville Predators team site. And again, as I mentioned before, host of the Wraparound. We talk about all things NHL. If talking about only the Predators is getting a little too depressing for you, invite you to come listen to us talk about some other teams that are sometimes a little more fun. And
cleanse the palate. Cleanse
the palate. But Anne, where can the people find you?
You can find my work online with Penalty Box Radio. You can find me on social media at AnnK_Mama on Ice as well. Friends, that's going to do it for this episode. The one where Anne and Emma say, whatever. It's done. It's over. Sure. Thanks for tuning in, making us your first listen of the day. We will be back tomorrow. We're going to talk about whatever happens tonight against Ottawa. We'll see you then.